All right, everybody, thank you for stopping by. So, for those of you who have been living under a rock, there's a new Stargate season that's going to be coming out that was recently announced. And before you guys get concerned and start thinking this is going to be another Stargate Origins,
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
we do have a little bit of hope since they are bringing back a lot of the original writers, which they didn't do that with Stargate Origins. They just had completely new writers. And I think it's really important they have at least some of the original writers when you're making something like this, because these are the people who actually know the characters. They know what's going on. They actually like created this. They know what's going on. They're not just going to be pushing their own agendas. So that does give me hope that this can be good. Another concern I've seen a lot of people have is that this is going to be created by Amazon Prime Video. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't concerned about that as well, because, you know, they have a bad track record when it comes to shows sometimes. But I personally view this as kind of a double-edged sword where it can be a bad thing because they do have a bad track record, but it can be a good thing because Amazon has some really deep pockets. Amazon can afford to go through the growing pains that this is surely going to have. So that'll be a good thing because, you know, that was one of the big reasons why Stargate canceled, is because MGM was going under and they were filing for bankruptcy and all that other stuff. But with someone as big as Amazon going to be backing this, there's going to be plenty of money if they're willing to put the money out there anyways. So we'll see. Hopefully this will work out. I think to put my own position in words, I'd have to say I'm hopeful, but not going to be surprised if it does go bad. But like I said, there's the chance that this is going to be great because they have all the tools to make something great. They have the original writers and they have all this money that they can make something amazing. We just have to hope and be faithful that they're going to be able to make something great here. But anyways, that's not what I wanted to discuss in this video. In this video, I wanted to discuss and open up for discussion anyways, what we want to see the show go in a direction wise. So Stargate SG-1 had run for 214 episodes. And in that time, they have opened up a lot of stories that can be branched off and put into different directions because they've made several enemies that we've seen one time and never seen again, or we've seen a couple times and then we stop seeing them. And there's a lot of directions they go with that. But we also have the Stargate Atlantis path where there's a lot of stories over there that we can continue. Or we have the Stargate Universe, which we can continue. And before we get too far, I got to express some of my feelings about Stargate Universe. That show, I just couldn't really get into it. I never really got into it. I did watch it completely, but I just didn't really enjoy it too much. And I don't know, maybe that's part of the reason why it went under, is because a lot of people felt the same way. So I'm just going to say right now, I hope they don't continue with that. Or if they do have that continue, it's not going to be the complete plot. Or at least if they do it, they come up with a better storyline than what they had. But anyways, I'm going to give a couple of my ideas of directions that they can go with this new series that's coming out. And I'm going to also open up for discussion in the comments to see what you guys think about what I've come up with, and also come up with your own ideas of what they can do. But anyways, to start off with, I'm going to continue on what I already kind of said in my last video, where I just kind of did the update video on the fact that they were making a TV show in the first place. But there was a cloned child of Richard Dean Anderson's character, Jack O'Neill. And the last time we saw him, he was getting dropped off at school by his adult version of his character. And he was saying he was going to pretty much start life over again with the knowledge he already had. And I'm not going to give any suggestions on how they do it, because it'd have to make Richard Dean Anderson look younger than he is now, which he's kind of aged pretty much a lot in the last like 20 years. But I'm sure they can come up with something like it's just, I don't know, some way they change the way he could grow up to look different, or I don't know, just find somebody that looks like a younger Richard Dean Anderson or whatever. But just try to imagine the fact that like Colonel Jack O'Neill was just such a badass character. Now imagine that you had a Colonel Jack O'Neill that's lived 2 lifetimes of experience and of training and everything like that, and just have him like as a main character. I think that'd just be really awesome. And the thing about that is they can kind of take that in any direction they really want. They could just have him, whatever story or adventure they decide to do, it's just him that's leading the charge with it. But that does kind of bring up a new question that you should have with this. And that question is there going to be a time jump where it's been like 20 years or however long since the last episode of Stargate that we've had? Or are they just going to continue it from where it left off? And I'm kind of mixed on what I want, because like in my mind, I'm like, oh, the time jump is the only one that makes sense because all the characters are going to be like 15, 20 years older than the last time we seen them anyways. And an example of this, the YouTube channel Dial the Gate had done an interview with Michael Shanks about this whole thing. And this Michael Shanks hasn't aged well. Let's just say that he's kind of aged like milk. And don't get me wrong, Michael Shanks is a legendary actor in my opinion. I loved him in the Stargate SG-1, and I loved when he would go into Stargate Atlantis, and he's just such a great actor. I loved him to death, but oh man, when I saw him, I did not recognize him at all. But a lot of these other actors are so old as well. Like they just, it's been like 15 to 20 years. And a lot of these people are actually way more famous now, and they might not be interested in coming back for a TV show like this. And just a couple, for example, like Christopher Judge is like huge now. He's doing voice acting for video games, and he probably wouldn't have the time to come and do a TV show like this consistently. I mean, he could do cameos and stuff, but another one is Jason Momoa. He's taken off recently. He plays Aquaman now, so he's like super big now and might not have the time to come and be consistently on a TV show. So they might not be able to get too many of the original cast to come back full time, but it would be cool to see cameos anyways. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of assume that there's going to be some sort of time jump, when however long it is going to depend on whatever they want to do. Because they could do like the 15, 20 years, or they could say this is going to be 100 years in the future, 200 years in the future. They could make it however they want. We don't really know. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to make it under the assumption that they're going to do the 15 to 20 year time gap. But the first idea I'm going to come up with is, I'm going to say it'd be interesting if they continued with Atlantis. And there's a couple of different directions that they could go with this, because they did leave the Wraith like unattended. Like they just kind of ran away from the galaxy and come and parked Atlantis on Earth. If you had, I hope I'm not spoiling it for anybody because it's been out for so long, so I don't feel too bad spoiling it. But essentially, since they brought Atlantis to Earth, the only way to get to the Pegasus galaxy is by using light speed or whatever. I can't remember what it's called now. I think it's light speed. So it's just not super practical to have a base there as long as Atlantis is on Earth now. And there's two different directions I think that they could go with this. And just, by the way, I'm sick of saying 15 to 20 years. I'm just going to say 15-year difference. It's been 15 years since we've seen Stargate Atlantis. But one way that they could do it is like say, okay, we're going to go back to the Pegasus galaxy and it's been 15 years. And then they go there and it's been overrun by the Wraith. And the Wraith have just completely taken over, and they have to fight the Wraith off and take back the galaxy. And I could make like a 20-hour video explaining all the different branches off that you could do with that. But a lot of this stuff could also be combined into be like, all my ideas could be combined into like one mega thing. So I'm just going to kind of spew it off here and go with that. But they can have the one direction where they go back to the Pegasus galaxy and it's been completely overrun by the Wraith. But another idea that I had is that the Wraith had went and found the replicator ship that they had kind of ditched off. And you'll have to forgive me. It's been a while since I've seen Stargate Atlantis, but if I remember right, they had the replicator ship that was like the replicator Elizabeth Weir had, and they kind of ditched her out in space and let her just kind of be deactivated. But I think it'd be interesting if they like had like a movie where they started off by just showing like the Wraith capturing that ship and then just capturing the replicators, and then using the replicators to make ships that were capable of traveling between galaxies and also finding the location of Earth, and then just straight up invading Earth with a bunch of Wraith ships. And I think it'd be really cool to like start off with a movie and just having like a movie where the Wraith invade Earth and then they fight them off. And then suddenly the Wraith are just running free in the Milky Way galaxy. And then suddenly that's a problem. And they got like the whole season is just trying to deal with the Wraith in the Milky Way galaxy now. But I really hope they bring the Wraith back in general. I just thought they were kind of great enemies, where they're kind of like that spooky, where they're like super smart, but then they're also like these creatures that kind of like feed on humans. And it's just kind of like, I feel like they're well done as an enemy. But then another direction that I think would be interesting is if like the humans of Earth have like become the Asgard, where they're like, okay, now we're the guardians of the entire galaxy and we're going to make all these peace pacts and we're going to be kind of in charge, kind of like the Asgard were before they were extinct. But you could fully make a season just like that of like, okay, we're the guardians now. We kind of go and like sort out all these problems throughout the galaxy that's going on, and then just have like a development of like a new enemy or something like that. I feel like that'd be interesting as well. I'd rather they brought the Wraith back, but that's another option that they can do. I think I'm open to having like a new enemy, but I feel like it'd just be so nostalgic to bring back an original enemy. And there is like the mystery of this like new enemy that you could have that's like interesting, but I just feel like the nostalgia is what's going to save this series. So I think at least in the beginning, they should have an original enemy that kind of returns, or somebody they've faced in the past, or just something like that, rather than bringing in a new enemy right off the bat. So the last idea that I had is going to be kind of based off the Stargate Universe, even though I said what I said earlier. But I think it'd be interesting if we had the 15-year time gap, and during that 15 years, the crew that were on the Destiny in Stargate Universe had been existing in that universe for 15 years and just kind of expanded their own thing. and then somehow they make a way that they can get back to Earth, and then suddenly you have this connection to a completely new galaxy that's, well, mostly unexplored. But there was an episode where I don't remember the full things, and I'm not going to go back and reference it, sorry about that, but they had run into like a crew from a different timeline that they just pretty much settled on a planet, and they were pretty much seeing the children of their own like dynasties in the future. So it'd be interesting to see like they had like a civilization like that that just continued on for 15 years, and then they eventually get contact with Earth again. And now that I'm like saying this out loud, I'm like having all these new ideas and branches off that they could go do. They could have like the Earth get in contact with them and go there, but they actually like resent them now, and they're like enemies, and they're like formidable enemies because they have all this ancient technology or whatever. And I don't know. I originally was thinking maybe don't have a continuation in Stargate Universe, but it'd be interesting. They had the 15-year time gap, and the people just made their own civilization, and you're following that civilization as they go exploring that galaxy. But again, the problem would be seeing if they could get back any of the original cast members, because they'd have to have some of them around for that anyways to make it make sense, because like not everyone is going to have died of old age in 15 years. But anyways, I could go on and on with my ideas for different continuations that they can do with this. But anyways, I'm going to end the video off here. Let me know what you guys think about my ideas as well as your ideas, and let me know down below in the comments. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, be sure to like and subscribe. And I'm going to be following the creation of this new series pretty closely. So if you want to be kept up on that stuff, be sure to subscribe, and I'll be sure to keep you guys updated on all this. But anyways, thank you guys for stopping by, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.